Okay, thank you, Jim. Hello, friends watching through the internet, and we have some people here as well, so it's a combination. My name is John Cianciosi, and I'll be presenting this 6-week course on mindfulness of breathing, a universal meditation practice. It's a meditation that I've personally been involved with for a very long time, 30, 40 years. And I feel very comfortable with it, and I do enjoy sharing some of my experience and insights that I have gained over this period of time. This course is intended to give you not just a basic introduction, but maybe a lot of skillful means by which you may be able to deepen your own practice. I expect that there are many people taking this course who have already established themselves to some degree in a meditation practice, maybe mindfulness of breathing or maybe another technique. And there may be some people who are just beginning. Therefore, I'll try and make it accessible to a wide range of people with a wide range of experience. Meditation is quite popular these days. I think it's a reflection of how stressful our lives are and how much inner turmoil human beings are experiencing. And the thought is that meditation can help bring a much needed refuge, a bit of peace and serenity within the mind and the heart. And this is really the purpose of meditation. I'm a Buddhist, and my tradition is based on Buddhism and the Buddhist teachings. Within that tradition, the word meditation that is used, and which we translate into the English word meditation, is bhavana. This word literally means bringing into being or cultivating. Cultivation is a very good, I think, translation for what I mean by bhavana or meditation. Cultivation means making a gentle effort to bring into being something which is of benefit to us. And meditation is a process of making a gentle effort of cultivating the mind and cultivating qualities in the mind which will bring benefit to us. Most of us may have some idea of what I mean by the word mind, but in this context, everything about you other than your body, I'm going to refer to as mind. Whether it be emotions, feelings, thoughts, concepts, perceptions, aspirations, whatever mental state, and that I will term as mind. And this is not to be a rigid definition that everybody has to accept. It's just within this presentation it makes it easy for us if we understand each other. So when I use the word mind, everything about you other than your body. In our world we pay, especially modern world, where we are very preoccupied with the appearance of the body, the health of the body, and these are important. With regards to the mind, we devote a great amount of time to cultivating the intellectual aspects of the mind, our ability to think, our ability to analyze, to compare, our ability to project and imagine. And these are fine, wonderful gifts, wonderful things to develop. However, I do think that most people in the West today are off balance in that we've strengthened the capacity of intellect to such a degree that it's become somewhat of an oppression. In other words, our inability to find some respite from the thinking process is becoming the oppression. It's almost a neurosis where we think all day and then at night we dream and think about something else. And so the mind is always very, very busy. And especially once it develops bad habits, habits of dwelling on the past with remorse and sometimes guilt, sometimes regret, sometimes longing, and very often projecting into the future with fear, trepidation, or excitement. So the mind is very actively engaged in this process of chasing after the past, chasing towards the future, and continually in the process of being busy. And so this is what I meant by saying the mind is not very peaceful. We don't feel much peace. Life is stressful. Life is oppressive. This can be remedied, but it's not going to happen by itself. Many people who feel this sort of oppression do try to find remedy by various means. Meditation is one of the better means. So meditation is this very gentle approach to cultivating the mind by starting by noticing, actually beginning to notice what is the mind like, what is the mind engaged with. It's just like if we want to cultivate a piece of ground or a plot of land, it would be helpful for us to get to know the terrain and see what it's like and what would grow there and what can be done to make it fertile and produce good crops. So with the mind, in order for us to do anything with it, in order for us to train it, in order for us to make it a better friend, we have to begin to notice what is happening within the mind. And so the first step in meditation is this turning inward, turning the attention to notice what we are doing, what we are experiencing now. We can call this capacity awareness, self-awareness, not self-conscious in the sense of worrying about oneself, but being sensitive and noticing what we are thinking, what we are feeling, what we are paying attention to in the present moment. We have this capacity, but unfortunately, most of the time we're not using it. And we're pretty much on automatic pilot as we drift from one thing to another in a rather mechanical manner. So awareness is that quality that allows us to know what we are experiencing in consciousness in the present moment. And this quality is what makes cultivation possible. If we don't know where the mind is paying attention or what the mind is doing, there is no way that we can teach the mind or understand the mind. So awareness is a quality that we can strengthen by exercising it. Awareness can be compared to light, which simply makes things within our visual range clear. And so awareness is a mental factor that can be present to a greater or lesser extent, depending on whether we make the effort. It is different than being alert, because when we are alert, it's true, we're fully awake. However, alertness always implies a degree of stress. We're alert when there's fear or when there's excitement, and that is very stressful to the nervous system, and we can't sustain that. Being aware does not imply any stress. Being aware does not require any hard effort, or does not need to be associated with fear or excitement. We have the capacity to simply be awake in the present moment. Meditation has techniques and utilizes skillful means to try and strengthen this quality within us. Based on this quality, we are then able to train the mind and develop a few other qualities which are very beneficial to us. Associated with awareness is concentration. Concentration is the ability to keep our attention on one thing and sustain it on that thing for a period of time. Most of us can concentrate, but the concentration that we have developed is often through willpower, through force, and most of us don't like to concentrate, and we consider it to be hard work. And we usually feel tired after we've had to concentrate on something. In meditation, the concentration that we're interested in is the ability of the mind to rest and enjoy engaging the attention on one thing for a period of time without having to be running around. So it's a restful concentration. It's an enjoyable concentration. It's a refuge rather than hard work. And so when I talk about cultivating the mind and when I talk about meditation, I talk about making a gentle effort to bring these qualities of awareness and concentration and strengthening these qualities within the mind. And a very important aspect that is necessary in order for our meditation practice to be successful is that whatever effort we make in developing these qualities, it must be associated with serenity. So if we are aspiring towards peace and tranquility and serenity, our effort must be peaceful. And so the qualities that we'll be exploring during this series is making gentle effort to cultivate awareness, the quality of being more fully awake, knowing where the attention is at this time, the quality of concentration, learning how to rest attention on one object or one area of attention and rest there, peacefully enjoying it. And the whole experience will be one of peaceful, serene, and restful period of time. So that's the overview of what I mean by meditation. To do this, we could use a variety of techniques and a variety of methods, some of which you probably already know. For this course, I've chosen mindfulness of breathing primarily because I am comfortable with it, but also because it is, as I say, a universal technique that can be used by everyone. It's got nothing to do with your beliefs. It's absolutely irrelevant whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist or of any denomination. It's got nothing to do with your intelligence. It's not an exercise in thinking. It's got nothing to do with your age. It's got nothing to do with your sex. It's all of these differences are irrelevant to this practice. If you breathe, you can practice mindfulness of breathing. Everybody can practice this. And it is actually a great equalizer. And in many ways, it is, as we develop an appreciation for what this means, it's amazing how it can break down so many barriers. If all the arguments in the world, if you consider them, and then all these people who are arguing, they're all breathing. If they could just focus on their breathing, all the arguments would cease for a while anyway. So mindfulness of breathing is a universal technique. And also the other reason why I like it very much and I prefer it over other methods is because it is something that is always accessible and something that is immediately available at all times. And it requires nothing from you in terms of having to create. You do not have to create anything. In actual fact, as we deepen our practice and appreciation of mindfulness of breathing, we begin to realize that the whole practice is less doing and more being, and just being with one breath at a time. And you don't have to do anything at all. So this is a great, great wonder or benefit of this practice of mindfulness of breathing. Just to begin with, I'd like to differentiate mindfulness of breathing from breath control techniques that are often taught and practiced in the yoga tradition. Mindfulness of breathing has nothing to do with breath control. We're not teaching the body how to breathe. As far as I'm concerned, your body breathes perfectly fine. Mindfulness of breathing is using the natural flow of the breath, just as the body breathes by itself, as a point of reference and a point of attention for us to strengthen the qualities of awareness and gradually teach the mind how to concentrate peacefully. So we're using the natural process of breathing to help us train the mind. We're not training the body to breathe. So this is a very important distinction. So with mindfulness of breathing, all of us are equal. All of us have our meditation object. All of us can use this object at any time. That being said, this technique is not necessarily easy. It's simple, but nothing is easy because our minds are complicated. And so even though the instructions on practicing mindfulness of breathing are actually very simple and straightforward, as with any other method that tries to train the mind, inevitably one has to be patient and one has to invest sufficient time to develop the skill. In the end, it's the meditation practice that teaches you. I, as a so-called teacher on this occasion, can only share some ideas and give you some pointers. But with regards actually learning and becoming skilled in this practice, this will depend on you and you doing the practice of meditation. With regards how well your progress will and how easy it will come, how easy the practice will be for you, there are only two factors. One is what you bring to this practice, two, what you put into it. What each of us brings to the practice is basically our conditioning, our habits, our tendencies. In other words, the baggage that we bring with us, what we are now, right here, the result of having lived, the result of living. And this, each one of us is a little different. And this we can't change. This is what we are, this is what we have to work with. And so we start with this in order to develop. What we put into it is the effort, is the time, and the skill that we gradually accumulate from repetition, from regular practice. This is, again, up to each and every one of us. This particular course is going to be interactive to some extent. I will be taking questions, but not at the start of each session. My intention is to try and break each one of these weekly sessions into 3 periods. One is where I speak, and this evening maybe I will speak a little longer than usual because it's the introduction. I speak, give some information, maybe then take some couple of questions, and then my intention is to actually do a period of guided meditation. Most of it will be in silence. However, I will do a short guidance, give a short guidance at the beginning. And then we finish the evening with, again, an opportunity for questions and discussion. So, mindfulness of breathing, the natural flow of the breath is our object. If we want to know, are we breathing in or are we breathing out? It's not a mystery. You can immediately know. How do you know whether you're breathing in or you're breathing out? You can know because there are subtle sensations associated with the breath flowing into the body and the breath flowing out of the body. The movements of the diaphragm, the sensations around the tip of the nose, the expansions and contraction of the torso, the abdomen, the chest area. So there are a lot of subtle sensations associated with the breathing in and the breathing out. And because we are conscious, we can know that we're breathing in and we're breathing out, if we want to know. Of course, the body will continue to breathe even when you are unconscious, when you're asleep. And it'll continue to breathe until you don't breathe. And then you don't need to meditate because you'll be dead. Sorry. But while we are alive, the body breathes. Whether we pay attention to it or not is not necessary. However, we can be aware of the body breathing, and therefore it is a good object for us to use in meditation as a point of reference and a point where we can turn attention. And why do we turn our attention to, say, the breathing? Why do we want to do that? Because by doing that, we can start to notice what the mind is doing in addition to just being aware of the breath flowing in and the breath flowing out. We begin to notice the busyness of the mind, its preoccupation, its kind of addiction or very strong habits of drifting into thinking about, and usually thinking about the past and thinking about the future, or doubting, or being preoccupied with one thing or another. So we start to notice how cluttered the mind is. And for some of us, it's a little bit of a revelation. I've heard people say, after trying meditation, they say, my mind is usually not so busy. I don't usually think so much, but whenever I try to meditate, I just think a lot. I think you think a lot all the time, but you don't notice it. So the meditation on the breathing is a way of establishing a point of reference that helps us become more aware of the mind and what the mind is doing. And this is the very first step in meditation. We let the body breathe as it wants. We turn our attention to the breathing. We try to hold our attention on the breath, but gently, because we know that the mind is actually still quite busy. And everything we notice, whatever comes into the mind, whatever thoughts, whatever perceptions, whatever activity that comes through consciousness, when we notice it, we let it go. And that's the first step in meditation. So when I said that awareness allows us to know what the mind is doing, that is true. But in meditation, this awareness has to also have a purpose. And so we call it mindfulness. We give the mind a purpose. And so the purpose is to be attentive to the breathing, to notice that, to hold on to that with gentle effort. And when we notice the mind being distracted, caught up in thoughts of the past, the future, the purpose is to let it go, put it aside, abandon it. So this is the very first step in our meditation practice. With regards the time that you're going to meditate, of course, if we're meditating together, this is the time we're going to meditate. With regards the place, choose a place which is quiet. No place is perfectly quiet, but relatively quiet. Choose a place which is relatively private, so you don't feel self-conscious. Choose a posture that is comfortable for you, but at the same time sends the right message to the mind. The message is, this is a time for us to be awake and relaxed. So a posture that is erect but relaxed is a good posture, whether it's sitting cross-legged or on the floor or in a chair, it doesn't matter. With regards the other mental suggestion that we should give ourselves, what we are undertaking is difficult, not because it's strenuous, hard work, but because it goes against the habit of the mind. So we want to approach it with a very clear intention. During the time of meditation, the intention is to try and untangle the mind from its preoccupation with thinking about whatever, thinking about whatever. The intention is to put things aside, to take time out from all our responsibilities, all our commitments, to put aside concern for the past, to put aside concern for the future. That's what our intention is to start off with this very clear intention. In order for me to move towards a peaceful place of stillness, clarity, rest, in order for me to really experience a freedom from the busyness of mind, I've got to be willing to put aside these things. So just start off with that as an intention, that for this short period of time, we're going to take time out. We're just going to take time out from all our responsibilities and duties. To this end, it helps greatly if you're not trying to jump from a very hyper busy state and jump into a meditation state. So if you're coming from a very busy period of work and activity, and that you may want to have a buffer, take time out for a while, go for a walk, have a shower, do some stretching, do something to settle down a bit. You don't want to go from watching a very exciting movie and then try to meditate all at once, reading a book that's captivated your attention and then go and try and meditate. Well, if you do that, it will be a struggle. It will be very difficult because your mind is so cluttered with so much imagery, so much dialogue, so much thinking that's still very prominent in your mind. It'll be the fallout of all of that is going to be quite difficult to deal with. However, even if you've just been calmly doing a bit of gardening or cleaning house, and then you come into your quiet space and quiet room, sit down and settle into a meditation posture and start to meditate, there's still going to be fallout from just the activities of living. So be patient, have the clear intention, and then gently make the effort of letting things that arise go, bringing the attention back to the breathing, gently guiding the attention to settle with the breathing, learning how to encourage the mind to be with the breathing without interfering with the breathing, learning how to gently rein the attention in towards the breath without forcing the mind and creating tension in your very meditation practice. These are skills that will come from experience. And this is what we're going to explore in the next number of weeks. To help you in your endeavor to settle the mind on the breathing, what I usually do is guide people at the beginning with just a systematic relaxation of the body. And this helps to gradually bring the attention within and then beginning to focus and notice the physical sensations. We're often not aware of physical sensations unless it's pain or extreme pleasure. But the subtle sensations we don't often notice. But if we do turn our attention towards these sensations, they help release a lot of the inbuilt tensions within the body, which are often unconscious, and so this is good for the body. But it is also a very good way of beginning to settle the mind so that then it can settle with the breathing more easily. Once we turn our attention to the breathing, I also encourage people to try and count the breathing, because especially if you're just a beginner, and especially if you haven't developed the skill to rest the mind without being so active, you'll find that the mind is quite resisting. It resists, it doesn't like to be still, which is, it's just why? It's strange. But the reason it resists is because it doesn't know how lovely it is. It's just something that we are not conscious of, and we don't know that it's actually very enjoyable to be still and to be silent. It's actually a preferable state to be in than to be thinking about stuff. But we don't know that. It's like, you can tell a child that it's really good to eat your spinach and eat greens and vegetables, but the child likes candy. It wants to eat candies. And so, we want to eat candies, and we want sugar, and we want junk food. That's the conditioning we've got to work with. So understand that the mind is trying to, you've got to be patient in guiding it, and to try and encourage the mind to take a little more interest in the breathing. It's useful to count the breath. And the counting of the breath is just a crutch. It's just a skillful means that makes it a little easier for you to notice what the mind is doing. When it's noticing the breath, when it starts to get distracted and gets caught up in thinking, you'll notice it more easily. And so it gives the mind a little more challenge. The way we count the breath is just a simple mental note. The breath comes in at the end of the breath. We count 1. The breath goes out. 1. That's 1 breath. 2, 2. Just see if you can count up to 10. And if you've done that, good. Start again at 1. Gentle counting. It's just a very gentle noting. And we know the breath flowing in, the breath flowing out by the physical sensation. You don't know the breathing by thinking. There is no way that you can know the breathing by thinking about it. It requires that tuning into the subtle sensations associated with the breathing. And you don't have to put your attention on any one point in the body. It's in the way I like to practice it and teach it, is that it's not necessary to focus on any one point. Just notice the breath flowing in. Experience it. Let the body breathe in gently. Let the body breathe out. And just notice whatever you can notice with that flowing of the breath. And we don't expect that the mind will stay with the breathing. We know that it's going to be thinking about stuff. But our intention is to thin out the jungle of thoughts. Gradually, patiently, let go and bring the attention back. Let go and bring the attention back. If you lose count and can't even remember what was the last breath, was it a 3 or a 5 or a 7? Let it go. Just start again at 1. In this meditation practice, It is utter simplicity. That's what we're striving for, utter simplicity. From simplicity, there is great clarity. From great clarity, great understanding and insights can arise. So it is a skillful process that requires some patience, and only the practice of it is what will make it feasible and attainable. And when I say practice, I'd like you to have a long range plan, not just tonight, not just the next 6 weeks, but long range plan, because it is a skill that may take quite a lot of time to develop. Not that it's all or nothing. Progress is there. And the progress is noticed by, is our meditation becoming clearer? Is there more clarity in the mind, more presence? Is the mind able to rest with the meditation object for a little more easily and a little longer? Do I feel more peaceful and serene during the meditation? These are the qualities that determine whether our meditation is going in the right direction or not. But this skill develops gradually, not necessarily smoothly. There are ups and downs in it, but it does take time, both in terms of how long we practice on each session, and then how often we practice, and also length of time, meaning how many years we practice. But it is a skill well worth developing. So this is the preamble, a little longer than what I plan to give you on a weekly basis. And each week I intend to build on the previous week, so that next week I will be speaking in greater depth about how to make effort and balancing energy. You can also find on the website the various topics that I'll be covering week by week. For this evening, though, what I'd like to now do is just take a few questions, if there are questions, and then I'd like to do a period of about 20 minutes of meditation, and I will guide you through this meditation, because it'll to set the mood and to help you establish the intention and to help you really be clear on the method. And after that, we can have a few more questions and discussion if time allows. Is there any question before we begin with the meditation practice? From the people here? From the people there? Nobody's asked anything, so I think we're good to go. I have asked Jim to set a timer for us for 20 minutes. For people who have meditated before, 20 minutes is not too long. It's a reasonably good time. If it's your first time, it may be a little too long for you. Do what you can. Don't make it into a struggle. Just follow the instructions and do what you can. And if you stop, you stop. And just wait till everybody else stops and we hear the meditation gong go off after 20 minutes. So as there are no questions, we can start. So I am personally sitting cross-legged, although you can't see my legs, but because I like to sit cross-legged, especially for meditation. However, if you are sitting on a chair, you may want to try and keep your feet flat on the ground, and also see if you can keep your back somewhat erect. And what we mean by an erect back is not like ramrod straight, but if we just try to push the lower back forward a little, we allow the muscles of the abdomen to relax. And if you let your shoulders hang down, The arms will hang loosely. And the hands, you can rest them in your lap, one inside the other, or as you find comfortable. The top of the head, it's good to have it pointing towards the ceiling so that the ears are somewhat in line with the shoulders. So that's the general idea of the physical posture. Because meditation is a process of introspection, it is often helpful to close the eyes, and I prefer to meditate with my eyes closed, although in some traditions they like to keep the eyes open. If you're going to keep the eyes open, you may want to just gaze down, and so that you're not distracted by a lot of visual imagery. So if you do, close your eyes. And once you close your eyes, just bring your attention into the space in which you are sitting, the room in which you are in. Usually what is obvious is the sounds or the lack of sounds. And everything is fine. We can feel safe within this space. The other thing that we can notice is the body itself sitting. There are sensations. We actually feel a sense of touch in the body. Now, these are the only two senses that are actually operational, because the sense of smell is not really usually a factor in this situation. The sense of taste is not usually a factor. So there's the sense of hearing and then the sense of touch. Other than that, it's just your mind making all that stuff up, all that thinking. It's the mind, noisy, busy. We want to try and thin that jungle out. So endeavor to just let your attention rest with the body sitting and notice what it feels like to be sitting. Is the body comfortable? Is the posture balanced? If you just sway a little back and forth, side to side, you can find that balance that feels stable. So the body is sitting comfortably. Now we have this opportunity to practice meditation, teaching the mind how to be peaceful, how to be awake, focused, and rest. In order for us to move in that direction, we must make a conscious decision to put aside concern for the past, put aside concern for the future. We're going to take time out from all the unfinished business, just a little time. And whatever comes up during this short period of time, when we notice it, we can say, not now. Let it go. Put it aside. For this time, we have nothing else to do, nowhere to go, no problem to solve. We don't even have to understand anything, solve anything through thinking. We're going to simply rest in the present moment, experiencing the natural flow of the breath. So begin by sitting with the body, letting the mind sink into the body. And notice the sensations around the face, the forehead, and the head. Is there any pressure around the eyes, in the forehead? Just release, relax. Moving the attention to the neck and shoulders again. Noticing the sensations, gently releasing. The arms hanging by your sides. Let them hang freely, loosely. The hands resting in your lap. Notice the tingling sensations and just let them be at rest. Now bring your attention into the chest. What can you feel in the chest? The subtle movements, the beating of the heart. Just release any tightness. Allowing your attention to sink into the abdomen. Relax all the muscles as you experience the gentle rising and falling movements. And noticing the legs, the feet, allowing them to be completely at rest. So now the mind is sitting with the body. The body is quite comfortable, balanced, still. And we notice that the body is breathing. We know by the subtle sensations. Let the body breathe as it wants, whenever it wants. But try to Maintain that awareness that knows when the breath is coming in and knows when the breath is going out. Quietly breathing in, quietly breathing out. Encouraging the mind to relax with the breath. And all the other thinking, just let it go. Put it aside. Not now. Gently bring the attention towards the breath, one breath at a time. you can stop being attentive to the breathing and just bring the attention to the body sitting here, opening the awareness to our surroundings, being at peace with things as they are. Take a couple of deep breaths and just move your head from side to side, down and back. Move your shoulders and arms. Stretch your legs. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So that is a period of meditation, an attempt at beginning to notice what the mind is like, beginning to make gentle effort at remaining a little more awake and aware so that we can notice what the mind gets up to, making a little effort to teach the mind how to let go of the busyness and begin to just rest a little with the natural flow of the breath. If we practice this regularly and over a long period of time, it can be of great benefit. But it does require regular practice. And by that I really do mean almost daily. Usually we say daily, at least once a day. And I would very much encourage you to try and do it at least for this course of 6 weeks. Just to set a time in your day where you can take time out and sit and make this gentle effort of teaching the mind how to unburden itself from being busy to just being peaceful. Doing it on a regular basis gradually builds familiarity. You feel more comfortable with the technique. That's the first thing, is you have to feel comfortable with the technique. It's just like walking on a treadmill. Before you can learn to run on a treadmill, you have to feel comfortable walking on it. So with this technique, you feel comfortable with it. So then it's easier to work and develop skill and overcome the many obstacles that are quite often encountered by most people. And we will talk about those in the coming weeks. I do notice there was one question which I've already answered. And the question was, how often should one meditate in a day? I would say at least once. Twice, of course, is twice as better, twice as good. Once is, I think, almost necessary for a period of about, don't make the length of the meditation such that it becomes a struggle for you. But do appreciate that it takes time for the dust to settle. The mind has got a lot of stuff going on, and it's just going to take some time to thin that out. And so 20 minutes is not a long time, provided you're not, really uncomfortable with that. I suggest doing it for 20 minutes. Start with that. gradually you'll be able to build it up to 30 minutes and maybe longer. Many regular meditators will meditate for an hour a day or longer. But if you make it a struggle for yourself, if you try to do too much before you're ready for it, then it's unpleasant. And if something is really unpleasant, we don't do it at all. So you don't do any meditation then. On the screen, you will notice that Jim put up an image of a book there, The Meditative Path, and that is a book that I did write a number of years ago. And certainly the first 4 or 5 chapters of that is devoted to the practice of mindfulness of breathing. And especially for people who are kind of new to this sort of practice, you may find a lot of useful information in that book, as well as useful guidelines that may help your practice. It's available through Amazon or the Quest Bookshop. If you've been practicing for quite some time, you may not find that book necessary, and that's all right. This 6 weeks does not require that you have that book, but it is available as a resource. Any other questions from the live bodies?
I am curious, if you were, say, a Tibetan monk, for example, and you talk about meditating for an hour a day, what would their practice typically be, or are they just in this state all day, kind of, and able to, manage that level and still do their work?
I'm not sure that everybody heard the question, but it's in regards to Tibetan monks and how, what any monastics. Well, I can't speak so much about Tibetan monastics, but from the Theravada tradition, and especially the tradition that I was a monk in Thailand and also Sri Lanka and Burma, it's very hard to generalize about monks. Most of us in the West think that all monks are necessarily really good meditators and they spend a lot of their time meditating, and that's not true, unfortunately. That is the intention for monastics when the Buddhist order was first established by the Buddha. But from early days, there were some monks were devoted more to meditation, others were engaged more in teaching, some just study. Especially these days, you find the vast majority of monks are mainly scholars. They know the scriptures and they teach. And meditation may only be a small part of their spiritual practice, actually. And that is not good, but it's a reality. In the monasteries where there is an emphasis on practice of meditation, then you may find again a variety there, and it changes even for one monk or one monastery, depending on the time of year. They go on retreats for 3 months, during which time the monastery that I lived in, we would practice 8 to 10 hours of meditation a day. And our meditation, you'd practice throughout the year at least an hour a day, a couple of hours a day is kind of normal. In addition to the formal meditation, however, in that sort of lifestyle, there's a great emphasis on trying to incorporate the quality of mindfulness and reflection into everything in one's day or in everything in one's life. And that is a lot easier within the monastic environment where conditions are very conducive. The lifestyle is very specialized to facilitate that. However, it is not completely impossible for us to do some of that in our own lives. In other words, as we become more comfortable and we recognize what it is to be awake, aware, actually we can bring that quality into the mind more frequently throughout the day, even when we're not meditating. And of course, this is uh, this is a, a goal that we would all want to aspire to, and it becomes even more important as we want to really bring change into our lives and bring change into the world. However, the formal meditation, these formal exercises, provide a foundation. It's very difficult for us to maintain awareness for very long in daily life if we are unable to, kind of at least settle the mind when we give it our best shot. And the formal meditation is like, we're taking time out to give it our best shot. Or you can think of it as, throughout the day you do work and you do exercise because you walk, you lift, you do things. But that in itself may not be enough for really good health or good physical health. And you may want to go to the health club for an hour to do some, really devoted physical exercise. Formal meditation and meditation in action, as I call it, are of this nature. One is something we do in order throughout the day. The other one is a more intense, focused effort. For those who have mastered, and you would say, for an enlightened person, there's no difference. However, even the Buddha, perfectly enlightened Buddha, would take time to go on retreats. Would take time. Why? To enjoy the bliss of silence and stillness, to enjoy the bliss of the beauty of the mind that is perfectly still and silent and full of rapture and joy. Why did he do that? It's just a pleasant abiding. That's all.
Wouldn't he have been able to stay in that state, even if he, there were intrusions of chatter and whatnot toward him? Because he would be more able to see that it was the mind and chatter and distinguish it from, stimuli.
The Buddha was always peaceful. Mm-hmm. That is always peaceful. But it's like the degree is, the difference would be like the Buddha sometimes would walk long distances because they never, to travel, you'd walk. So he would walk long distances. And he was peaceful. But he's walking and it's kind of tiring. So then he sits down and sits under a tree and rests. It's the same with being active mentally and interaction. He's peaceful, but it's activity. We don't think of it as work, but it is. and the reason we don't think of it as work is because we haven't, most of us, as I said, don't know how restful and peaceful it is not to be doing that work. So we've been carrying this head full of thinking, busy for so long, we don't know that we're carrying it. That's why, and we don't know how to put it down. It's like, I had a yoga teacher once, and he went up to a student, not me, another student, and he held his chin and he said, "Give me your head." And he said, "Give me your head." And he's doing this to him. And obviously what he meant was, okay, relax all the muscles in your head. It's very hard to do because we'd never relax the muscles in our head around the neck and until we lay down, and even then we may until we fall asleep. But if you try to, you can't because you're afraid your head will fall down. So it's the same with thinking. We don't know let how to rest. I mean, how does it's not you can't stop by will. You can't relax the muscles in your neck by effort. It's by letting go, and then the relaxation happens. So the busyness of the mind is something that we're accustomed to, and we think it's normal. But because it's gotten to such a kind of extreme for most of us now, it is oppressive. We do notice that it's oppressive, but we're not quite sure why. uh, but once we learn how to release that and actually begin to experience just how how utterly beautiful and peaceful it can be to stop and be still. And then we know what it's like to rest in that. We know the difference. Then it'll be easier for us. At present, we're just like fish who've always lived in water and have no idea what's it like to not be in water. And a fish actually can't be out of the water. And if you bring it out of the water, it'll squirm and jump around and it would die. But we're not fish. We're turtles. We can come out of the water and bask in the sun and just lay there. But it's a good way to think about it. It's just coming out of a different realm, the realm of concept, the realm of thinking about, the realm of creating stuff. And then there's the realm of being. And they are, we should feel comfortable in both. Nobody from the internet has asked any question, and our time is up. So I thank you all for those of you who came physically, and I thank the people out there who have participated this evening. I hope it's been of some benefit, and also I encourage you to try and do this meditation on your own. If you want to use the guided tape again, that's fine. It's recorded, so it's available to you. But you once you know what you're doing, you can do it yourself. And try to do it once a day for about 20 minutes. And also next week when we meet again, if there are things that come up that you would like to ask, certainly feel free to ask them. Be a good student, a good student, not of me, mine, but a good student is one who's willing to learn from the experience. Let the experience be your teacher. So as you do this, don't expect to do it right, do it perfect, exact. Just do it, take a step, see how it goes. And we can explore ways to adjust how you make the effort, overcome some of the difficulties maybe, and gradually, with practice, with regularity, the skill will grow and you will begin to really enjoy this. I don't guarantee it because it's something that it's up to each one of us to prove something to ourselves or for ourselves. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating, and I look forward to our next meeting next week.